live from the District of Columbia. You are listening to the Black Fundraisers podcast, a weekly podcast that celebrates, inspires, and equips Black fundraisers to excel and positively impact Black communities. With your host, Kia Croom.
Good day, good people. I pray that you are in good spirits wherever you may be listening. My name is Kia Croom, and I'm your host of the Black Fundraisers podcast, your weekly podcast that celebrates, inspires, and equips Black fundraisers to positively impact Black communities. Good people, you could be anywhere in the world in these internet streets, so I appreciate this stream more than you know. If you're joining for the first time, let me welcome you. And for my regulars, you already know what it is. I appreciate your continued support. So today, good people, boy, are we in for a treat. My special guest is a woman who needs no introduction, but deserves one for all of the wonderful contributions she's made to society. She is none other than the illustrious Dr. Johnnetta Betsch Cole. And I've been a huge fan of Dr. Cole's work since my AUC days at the Clark Atlanta University. That's right, I did say the. During that time, Dr. Cole was the president of Spelman College, and although I didn't attend Spelman, whenever I got wind that Dr. Cole was speaking somewhere, I'd steal away and grab a seat, as I found her to be such a dynamic orator, speaker. And as time went on, I just admired and celebrated her for all of the work she was doing in Atlanta's philanthropic community, in particular, her work with the United Way Atlanta, during a time in which the face of philanthropy was that of a white male or a white female. Dr. Cole founded the Cole Society, which is a giving circle designed to engage African Americans and young professionals with philanthropy and the United Way Atlanta. I'm going to take a quick moment and share her highly decorated bio with you. During her childhood, Dr. Cole had the privilege and joy of being mentored by Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. As a lifetime member of the National Council of Negro Women, she also had the honor of working with Dorothy Irene Height. Her passion for the work of the National Council of Negro Women is centered on her long-standing engagement in the struggle for social justice, a struggle that must include full equality for African American women. Dr. Cole is a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and she currently serves as the co-chair of the Society's National Arts and Letters Commission. She's also a member of the Links Incorporated, and she's the principal consultant with Cook Ross Incorporated, a consulting firm in Silver Spring, Maryland. Dr. Cole is a fellow of the American Anthropological Association and a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. She is currently a senior consulting fellow at the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. She served as the president of both historically Black colleges for women in the United States, Spelman and Bennett colleges, a distinction that she alone holds. She has also served as the director of the Smithsonian National Museum of African Art. Dr. Cole has authored and edited several books and numerous articles for scholarly and general audiences. She's received numerous awards, including a National Council of Negro Women Uncommon Height Award, and holds over 68 honorary degrees. What a remarkable legacy Dr. Cole has created. And I've watched her work from a distance for about 18 years until I had the pleasure of meeting her in 2017 at the National Council for Negro Women's Uncommon Height Gala. I politely walked up to her and introduced myself and told her how much of an inspiration she'd been to me throughout my fundraising career. And she said some words to me in that moment that changed my mindset and completely changed my life. I bet you want to know what she said to me. Well, just hold tight. I got you. Keep listening. And come on, let's go ahead and get into it. Dr. Johnnetta B. Cole, welcome to the Black Fundraisers podcast. I'm delighted to have you.
And I am delighted to be with you.
Thank you so much for joining. Dr. Cole, I told the good people listening about when I had the pleasure of meeting you, and I believe it was in 2017 at the Uncommon Heights Gala. And I walked up to you, I introduced myself, and I shared how I've been following you since my AUC days. And I'm not a Spelman girl, but I did attend the Clark Atlanta University. I'm a proud alum. And I shared with you, with tears in my eyes, how much of an inspiration you had been to me over the years, just watching you from afar. And I remember sharing with you that I was a fund development officer, and you grabbed my little hands and you looked me square in the face and you said some words that changed my mindset and really changed my life and inspired me to do this, right? This podcast. You said, you are a Black advancement officer. Do you know how valuable you are? And you also asked me, are you happy in your role? And the truth of the matter was, at the time, I wasn't very happy. I didn't feel valued. So for the Black advancement officers, Black fundraisers listening that are working inside organizations where they don't feel valued and they aren't necessarily being celebrated and inspired, what words would you say to them?
Well, let me first begin by genuinely thanking you for this opportunity. There's an African proverb that I love to use. It says, it does no harm to be grateful. And so I am grateful for this opportunity to interact with, could be lots and lots of African-American fundraisers, and I will have this conversation with them through you. What I said to you when we were in that setting really touches on 2 points that I feel very strongly about. The first is that if we do not value ourselves, we send that signal out into the world. And so I strongly believe that any and everyone in an underrepresented community, and of course, specifically that means for you and me as Black women, we have to present ourselves, not in an unprofessional way, but we have to present ourselves as an individual with confidence in her professional abilities. The second thing I want to say that I was trying to say when we were together is that work should be a means, of course, to our livelihood. But if it does not bring us joy, we need to move on. And for African Americans in the field of fundraising, you are in quotes, you're a hot commodity right now. With the moment that we're in, which of course began with that brutal murder of our brother George Floyd, there is something of a reckoning around racial injustice. And one of the ways that we see that is that corporations not-for-profit organizations have all of a sudden discovered that there are Black professionals who've been doing the work and who can bring great value to their organizations.
Thank you for that. Your words were so powerful and resonated so strongly with me in that moment. And I know that there's someone listening who will be inspired by your share and those words. And my hope is that folks are looking around, listeners are looking around and feeling very encouraged and feeling like that edge that they have, that we have an incredible advantage right now. Our lived experiences, our professionalism, our know-how, is valuable to these organizations. And if we're working inside organizations that don't know how to harness that or unearth those things in us, those environments don't serve us. And I agree wholeheartedly. And thank you. I thought it was important to share that context because as I shared with you, you were a true inspiration for this and why I felt the need to uplift and amplify Black voices in fundraising and fund development. Mm-hmm. And following your achievements, your legacy and contributions to society, which seem infinite, it was always evident to me that you love teaching and you value education and service. I'm aware that you grew up in a family that valued education in Florida. And I'm aware that your family was very close to Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, who we know was an educator and founder of Bethune-Cookman College. Your mother having been an alumna of Morris Brown and Wilberforce, and your father having worked at Harvard, and you yourself being an alumna of Fisk University. And even when I think about your work as a university professor and your leadership as an associate provost at UMass, I told you, I've been doing my homework on you for a long time, Dr. Cole. From the outside looking in, it seems as though you were on a natural trajectory to become a college president. Yet I've heard you say before that you never imagined being one. In fact, the one interview that comes to mind was a conversation that you had with the late Julian Bond. And I remember the two of you were having a conversation and you said that you never thought of being a college president. And I'll quote you, you said, "I was too busy being a very, very rewarded professor." And I'd like for you to take a moment and elaborate on that. What did you mean by that?
Well, I'd love to. First, a correction. It is true, my mom went to Morris Brown High School before going to Wilberforce College, now a university. My father went to Knox College, all of those institutions being HBCUs. And my father, at one point in his career, did work at Howard University. So that's a good way to say that I grew up in a household of folk who had been well educated at historically Black colleges and universities. And the expectation of me and my sister and my brother was that we would indeed go and get a good education, as the old folks would say. I did that. And my career developed to the point where I was a professor. And I thought that was sacred work, not just the kind of thing you do to make a living, but the kind of work that is centered in helping others to learn. And because I so enjoyed being a professor, and at least my students said maybe they were just trying to, see if they could be nice and get a better grade. But because my students continued to really say to me, "You're good at this." I never thought about that until you spoke of it. Maybe I want to be a professor. And so with those kinds of rewards, I didn't see why I should go off and be a college president. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I remind you and the sisters and brothers listening to this conversation, professors can often give presidents a hard road to hoe. And so I thought, why do I want to be a college president when I can have the joy of being a professor? 2 women convinced me that I had to put my name in that, how does one say, throw my hat in the ring for Spelman College presidency. The first, the very special and legendary Marion Wright Edelman, a Spelman graduate who founded the Children's Defense Fund. She has retired, but she will never, ever truly move away from our love and admiration. She has spent a lifetime caring about our children. The other, Donna Shalala, who was herself president at Hunter College, president of the University of Wisconsin, and then under the Clinton administration, she was indeed the head of Health and Human Services, and then went on, in fact, to be a member of Congress. Now, when 2 women who had already been my mentors got on either side of me, when they got on either side of me, I had no choice. So, of course, I put my hat in the ring. I am so glad that I did. Serving as the president of Spelman College and of Bennett College, the only 2 historically Black colleges for women in our country, was one of the greatest gifts that I've ever been given.
Yeah, I tell you, I was at the AU Center in '99. And when I learned of you, and I came to Atlanta from California, grew up and born and raised in California, Oakland, California. And this was a crash course for me in Southern living, although my family, various members of my family are from the South. Imagine a girl from California going to the South. And I remember I walked over one day, I'd heard about the Spelman, it was a convocation or something, right? And there was this initiative called Olive Branch, in which students of the neighboring colleges and universities, Clark Atlanta, Spelman, Morehouse, we'd have like an event, and you were the orator of the day, right? And lit my seat on fire. Listening to you, that was my first encounter. And the reward that you feel, you experience in leading that institution and Bennett and as a professor, imagine the reward that was for me having that encounter, having that experience, that exposure, and the thousands of other lives you've touched. It just gives me goosebumps. Before I move to my next question, you said something that I want to address.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about these 2 remarkable women and the indelible impact they had on your life as mentors and propelling you into purpose. And I just want to lift that up and acknowledge how important that is as Black women, that we do that for one another.
Mhm.
And I hope that the Black women listening and women of color, I think that it's really important that we hold fast to that frame of mind and think about the person coming behind us or the person next to us when we see opportunities, rich opportunities, whether it's an opportunity for me or not. Perhaps that's that opportunity for that sister in the wings or that sister behind me or on either side of me, as you said. So thank you for lifting that up. I think that sisterhood is key.
Mhm.
I do. And I'll allow you to react to that if you like.
Well, I believe very strongly that if you manage to get someplace, you have the obligation to help others to move forward. The household that I grew up in, the community that raised me during those Jim Crow days in Jacksonville, Florida, would often say, doing for others is just the rent you've got to pay for your room on earth. And so the two mentors that I have lifted up, Marion Wright Edelman, Donna Shalala, had done incredibly well in the world, but they felt an obligation to help others. I have that same commitment. And then there's something else I want to say about mentoring. While we usually think of this as an older person bringing wisdom to a younger individual, that's not always the case. I believe in a mentoring relationship, each individual should gain. And to put it bluntly, when I am mentoring someone, if it is a younger person, I expect to learn from her. I expect to be inspired by her. In fact, any relationship that we have, I think the joy and the importance rests in reciprocity. And so, because others, like the two mentors that I mentioned, did so much to help me, I have no choice but to continue to be of assistance to others.
If I had my tambourine, I would have hit it. I agree wholeheartedly. I want to go back to something. I think it would be helpful to talk a little bit about how your experience as a professor and even an administrator, provost at UMass, your lived experiences, how do you believe those prepared you for the responsibilities of a college president, in particular, the resource procurement aspects of that role?
Well, each of us should continue to learn from where we have been and where we are in anticipation of where we need to go. I brought into the presidency of Spelman and Bennett the experience of being a professor. I'm talking about the classroom. I'm talking about grading papers. that experience, first of all, it meant that I garnered respect from the faculty at Bennett and Spelman. They couldn't say, well, Dr. Cole doesn't understand. She's never been a professor. That's one thing. The second, though, is that when I became a president, I'm going to tell it, I'm going to tell the story right now. I did not have a lot of experience as a fundraiser. I'll quickly tell one of my favorite stories. I'm on Spelman's campus. I've been through all of the interviews up to a given point. Things were going really well. I was beginning to think, maybe I will be given this great gift of being the first Black woman president at Spelman College. I had one more interview to do. And I thought, oh, this'll be, as the young'uns would have said at that time, a slam dunk. I am a professor. I'm about to be interviewed by the faculty. So I walk in and I give a little talk and we move to Q&A. I will never forget this. The first question, the first hand up, African-American brother in the history department said, now, Dr. Cole, if you're selected to be our president, what can we expect of you as a fundraiser? I believe in being honest. My folk taught me, just tell the truth. So I said, well, let me say that I've done some fundraising, certainly to receive funds to support my research in my community activities, raising funds for organizations. But to tell you the truth, I've never done the kind of major fundraising that must be done by a college president. But I said, I think I am capable of raising millions. And I say that because I think the key to fundraising is not just knowledge, but passion. And I have a passion for the education of Black women. I got through the rest of that interview. I left Spelman's campus, went down to the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, where the chair of the board, Bob Holland, was waiting for me. We were to talk about the day and next steps. Bob Holland, wonderful Bob Holland, this African-American brother who had been highly successful in business, including at one point being at Ben and Jerry's. He just looked at me and said, oh, Johnnetta, why did you say what you said? I have gotten a string of phone calls from the faculty saying, please do not choose her. She won't be able to raise any money for us. I said, well, Brother Chair, the truth is the truth. I will always tell it. And if that truth that I told is going to keep me from being the president of Spelman College, so be it. Well, as we all know, the board made the decision that I would be that president. When Bill and Camille Cosby made a gift of $20 million to Spelman, the largest gift that any HBCU had ever gained at that point, there was great joy between me and the faculty. I would just tease and say, didn't think I could raise any money, huh? So let's go back to the real point of that story. And it is that there's a great deal of knowledge that you and other Black fundraisers command. But if you don't feel passionately about what you are raising money for, you will not show that passion to the individual that you hope is going to give you a good deal of money for your passion.
I believe that, and thank you for that and that beautiful story. And boy, was Bob wrong about that one. Wonderful, wonderful story, very appropriate. There's a lot to be said about being honest and transparent. I'm honest with my donors. I'm very transparent. Mm-hmm. And I'm incredibly passionate. And when I look back over my career, and I've been doing fundraising and fund development over the last almost 20 years, there were times that I didn't have the know-how. And I found myself in rooms with folks with pockets and bank accounts full of money, and I might have had lint in my little pockets. But I had the passion, and it exuded, it came through what I had to say. And it resonated strongly with them. And here I am, almost $400 million raised across the country. And I attribute that to my passion. And I think we're speaking the same language. For the record, you came in the door with that gift at Spelman College from Bill and Camille, that historic gift. And we're talking 1987.
That's true. In fact, yes. You talk about a blessing that the good Lord, she gave to Spelman College and to me. That gift was announced at my inauguration at the gala. And I just feel that, again, this is a time when Black fundraisers who've always had this passion for strengthening our institutions. We are in a moment of time when I think that work will be done more easily. Because you all have been in the vineyards now for years and years and years. But now it's almost like all of a sudden, there's some respect for our institutions and the roles that our institutions play, not just in Black communities, but in our country and in our world. So this is your time.
And I'm walking in this time, and I encourage the good people listening to embrace this moment and walk in this time and do your thing. Tool up whatever you want to do or need to do to show up how you want to show up, to truly harness this place and time. Dr. Cole, when you look back over your career and all the wonderful work that you've done, what's been your why?
Is the why it has happened to me? You know, I think I am very typical. I'm very typical in the sense that anything that I have accomplished has come from faith, it's come from family, and it's come from fortitude. The faith I got early on, when my family had me sitting in Mount Olive AME Church, or as one ought to say, church, for half of a Sunday. And that faith continues to guide my life. Secondly, I am very blessed to have a family that acknowledges my work, that supports my work. And then, just because I thought it would be good to be on a roll with these F's, family, faith, fortitude. Now I am a Delta. And of course, fortitude has a special meaning for Delta Sigma Theta sorority women. But if you've got the fortitude, the strength, the undeniable commitment to do the work, it's going to pay off. Maybe not as soon as you want it to. Maybe not even in the form that you were anticipating. But faith and fortitude will not be denied.
Amen to that. And the rest, as I hear you say sometimes, is her story.
It is. It is a men and a women too.
Yes. Dr. Cole, what words of encouragement do you have for Black fundraisers listening and aspiring ones doing this mission critical work at agencies and institutions of higher learning across the country, feeling the heaviness of these challenging times right now?
Well, first I want to say these are some mighty challenging times. I have been blessed to live for 8 decades. And I don't think I've ever seen quite this combination of challenges where we have the worst health crisis since 1918, when we had a pandemic, when we are experiencing a revival of Jim Crowism. And then thirdly, when the economic consequences of this pandemic are not only affecting Americans, but affecting those of us in underrepresented communities the most, affecting us the most. And so the COVID-19 pandemic disproportionately affects Black and Brown and Native people. And then our economic circumstances, which are always, for 401 years, always more challenging than what white folk experience. We're having a really rough time now in our country. And so each of us must find the way to never, ever give up hope. Optimism and hope are not the same things. I heard a wonderful sermon last Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, when our brother Senator Raphael Warnock preached in Ebenezer Baptist Church. And he said, I remain hopeful. And in many ways, the core of his sermon was the very worst thing that can happen to us as a people is to lose hope. We dare not lose hope. And so to my sisters and brothers and the Black fundraising community, I can say to you, hold on. This is not the end. Hold on. Participate in doing good trouble. And then let's see what the end will be.
Amen and amen, Dr. Cole. Thank you for these incredibly encouraging words. Thank you for taking the time to stop by the Black Fundraisers podcast and reminisce with us and give us a window to this storied, wonderful career and legacy you've created.
You are so welcome. So very welcome, my dear sister. We say to each other, but I heard someone use an expression the other day that I really like. The sister said, stay positive and test negative. That's what we got to do.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I'm going to borrow that one. That's a good one.
All right.
Well, Dr. Cole, I want to again thank you, and to the good people listening, I hope that your spirit, your soul, your thirst has been quenched by the wonderful words Dr. Cole has had to say in her experience. And I want to just express my gratitude to you listeners for always listening and tuning in with me. As I always say, you could be anywhere in the world in these internet streets. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen. You heard it from Dr. Cole. Know your worth, know your value, and make sure that you're honoring yourself and your talents. We know that Rome wasn't built in a day, but we have the power and the passion to be the change we need to see in our society and in our community.
Mm-hmm.
Good people listening, be encouraged. And until next week, stay down, stay tuned, and keep your head up.
Thanks for listening to the Black Fundraisers podcast. Like what you're hearing? Subscribe to the Black Fundraisers podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you listen, and leave a 5-star review. Connect with Kia on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter to stay connected.
Hello, thanks so much for stopping by. I am Kia Croom, and I'm a fundraising professional and DEI champion. I am in pursuit of racial justice for people of color and communities of color. I'd love to explore ways we can work together to change the world.